Hey guys, it's Michael Todd and welcome to The.Cult.Of.Vintage. Now I know there have been several of you who have been asking me to go back thrifting, so I'm going to go back thrifting to Goodwill. Um, yeah, hopefully I get enough footage that I can give you guys a little bit more detail as to why I've decided. While I'm not going to say, I'm never going to shop at Goodwill again, I am really going to try to focus more on small businesses. And I hope in this video, you will better understand why. There might be some kind of what I call like dead footage or filler footage. And hopefully I'm able to take that time in the video to explain to you guys the reasoning behind it. It's not, I'm not going to get into the morals and the ethics of it all, but I just hopefully will be able to impress upon you where my priorities lie as a content creator here on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get thrifting. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Alrighty, guys, here we go. And we are in the interior. Here we have a sampling of Goodwill's Christmas display. It is set up very nicely, very cleanly, very organized, especially for a Goodwill. However, this is a prime example of one reason that I struggle coming to Goodwill. Now, for those resellers that are selling general merchandise or newer merchandise, hey, perfect fit. But as a vintage reseller, this really is not the kind of Christmas items that we are looking for. Next up, we are headed into our clear glass. And now, while I have found some clear glass pieces at this specific Goodwill, it is very standard, very run-of-the-mill type of items. One thing that I did catch my eye is this tall taper candlestick. I think she's lovely for $2.99. I kind of regret not getting it because these make great displays for your Christmas tree toppers. Now that said, I wasn't in that frame of mind. One thing that I do want to say is that just because this is a decision that I am making, does not mean that I begrudge anybody else or that I'm feeling some kind of way about anybody else making a Goodwill video. This was interesting. It is older. We don't typically see too many rinders that are made modernly. Now, I will say, when I turned around from the clear glass, boom, right there, we do see a set of 3 swans, 1 large mother and 2 babies. They were in really good condition. They were taped together. And flipping it over, I did see that it was a USA pottery. Now, that could have been California, could have been Ohio. It probably was just a smaller pottery company back in the 40s or 50s. Little scuffing there on the front, but I did decide to go ahead and pick them up. Right underneath it were these Franciscan Desert Rose salt and pepper shakers. They were priced at $1.99. Now, the profit margin isn't going to be that great on these. However, I am still going to go ahead and pick them up. It was fun to find. I thought, hey, sure, why not? And next to it was this cute little face plate bowl with his little feet underneath it. That's absolutely adorable. I'm unsure as to the maker. Very 60s, very 70s at $1.99. I did decide to go ahead and pick this up. And just like that end cap, it had 3 items for us. That was pretty impressive, I will say. Curse or Jinx was broken, so I did go ahead and get a cart. Now we are going to head down our other aisles here. Again, another example of new stuff. But as I was saying, I'm not here to begrudge anybody else for making a Goodwill video. The thing is, and this point, I guess, has really stuck with me, is that at the end of the day, this is a thrift store. And again, while I'm not begrudging anybody for making a Goodwill video, as a content creator here on YouTube, I have to wonder where it is that I am shining a spotlight on my platform. Now, it is a relatively small platform, but at the end of the day, one drop in the bucket can make a large ripple. Um, that said, as a vintage reseller, especially with a lot of content creators making videos utilizing Goodwill, we have really demonstrated to Goodwill as a business that they've got a lot of really good stuff. And not only do they have a lot of really good stuff, but they have a lot of stuff that a lot of people, collectors and resellers, are interested in and are willing to pay a premium for, as is evident on Goodwill or shopgoodwill.com. If you've never been there, it is an auction site that is run exclusively by Goodwill. And collectors and resellers will go on there. Now, I have been on there several times, and some of the items, it gets very aggressive. I mean, it is like eBay aggressive on certain things. That said, again, I'm not holding anything against a business wanting to generate more profit. There's nothing wrong with that. That is what business is. However, I personally feel am really helping Goodwill kind of take the business from out underneath me. And I've only just started within the last year. So the more Goodwill videos that I'm pumping out, the more that I'm demonstrating to Goodwill, hey, these are the things that you should be saving. These are the things that you should be putting on the website. Again, as I said in the introduction, I'm not going to get into the morals and the ethics of Goodwill making 100% profit and charging in some instances a premium in store and then hoping to get a premium on other things through their website, because at the end of the day, just like on my YouTube live sales, it's only worth what somebody's willing to pay. But when you do have people that are working in their sorting center that are specifically trained to look for things of value or desirability or collectability, it really lessens the likelihood of me as an individual reseller going into their business and being able to find anything of worth. Now, it is worse in other states, and it is far better in other states. So it is situational. I hope I'm not boring you guys with this voiceover. I know you're probably like, I just came here for a thrifting video. I don't need no moral and ethics lessons from you. And again, that's not what this is about. This is an illustration of, am I making the right decision for myself, for my community, whether it is a fellow reseller or whether it is a collector? I almost question, am I doing a disservice by continuously going in here and shining a spotlight on Goodwill? I know that everybody loves the rags to riches story. In other words, I go into Goodwill, I find something for $1.99 and I sell it for $200. That's amazing and that's great. And I think a lot of people like to fantasize or live vicariously. Oftentimes, I know I did prior to making YouTube videos. And I think that honestly, once you do start reselling, if that's what you want to do, you do begin, and especially making videos, you do begin to have a different perspective on what it is you're doing and the businesses that you are supporting. As I said earlier, I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm never going to go into a Goodwill and shop again. I am. Of course I am, because there are deals to be found, like these vintage Pier 1 Imports glasses. These are actually from the late 90s. I, interestingly enough, worked for Pier 1 Imports way back in the day and remember selling these. Pier 1 Import stuff is something that, again, I would recommend keeping your eye out for, especially a lot of the older items, the vintage Pier 1 Imports. Again, keep in mind, the stuff that was made and sold at Pier 1 Imports is actually handcrafted. So it, again, you are getting artisan quality items, even though they were quote unquote mass produced, but they weren't produced necessarily in the kind of quantities that you would find at like a Walmart or a Target kind of glass. These were flashed or stained, I should say. So it is paint that is fired on. to the glass. Or pardon me, it is chemically adhered to the glass versus actually being green glass. These tin soda cans, I guess, were interesting. Very, you know, uh, rule. They're very outdoorsy. Do you know that line? They're just outdoorsy. Those were outdoorsy mugs, shall we say. So yeah, I guess it's one of those things where as a content creator, you know that typically, a YouTube video, or pardon me, a Goodwill YouTube video is going to garner more views simply because they are a national or nationally recognized, little Odie there, nationally recognized thrift store. So a lot of times when people are searching for thrifting videos, they're not typing in thrifting, they're typing in Goodwill thrifting. And that is what garners you more views, is because of general search terms. Goodwill being primarily the number one search term along with thrifting. Now, you could say thrifting at an antique store or thrift store prices at an antique mall, but it still doesn't generate you the same kind of views. So you're going to say, well, Michael, is it really just all about the views? Yes and no. At the end of the day, whether people say, I don't care about the views, well, you have to, because if you're doing this, creating content, and you want your channel to grow, and that's irregardless of the monetization, irregardless of being able to run ads on your channel, if you want it to grow and to reach a broader audience, you have to make content that people are wanting to see. And if they're searching for thrifting and Goodwill videos, well, then you're like, well, I got to make thrifting and Goodwill videos. And I'm going to be really forthright with you guys. There are two videos that I have made, both actually specifically say, quote unquote, supporting small business. Both of those videos are my least two videos. And it's really interesting to me, that dynamic, that somehow the support of a small business isn't as desirable as going in and supporting a large corporation. You know, to me, it's mind boggling. These are a cranberry glass, very like late 70s, early 80s, kind of like a fairy lamp knockoff. It's kind of when the trend was ending. The Manhattan collection is what it's called. Really didn't have a whole lot of resale value, so I just left those there. But small businesses, whether it's an antique mall or whether it's one individual who owns a store and is selling their collection, or they themselves have gone out to yard sales, garage sales, thrift stores, Goodwills, and they have found things of value, those people are you and I. We're supporting ourselves. We're supporting our community. And I think that's so important. And I think a lot of times we forget that, that we view that as just a business. Now, here's a really interesting cookie jar. She is unique. She is interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I decided to go ahead and pick her up. She's unique. I don't know that she is truly vintage. However, I thought that she was absolutely adorable. She did seem to be of a quality piece. The ceramic was solid. The arms were applied, meaning they were sculpted separately from the torso. The torso was its own piece. And I don't know. I just thought that she was darling. I thought that she had a very unique look to her. She had a very strong nose to her. I wasn't seeing any major chips or cracks to her. So yeah, I totally picked her up at $5. I didn't think it was that big of a risk. So glad I got her. I think that she's cute. She's the right kind of kitsch, if you will. Again, just demonstrating that you can find newer items if you are a vintage collector. And I'm going with newer because, again, I can't identify it as vintage. But again, getting something newer that will play well into your vintage decor or vintage life, if you will. So again, I'm not really seeing a whole lot. I'm seeing a lot of new stuff. And that is, again, another issue that you do face shopping at a lot of Goodwills is you're going to find a lot of newer kind of items. So that is always something that you do have to be careful with. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, though, that it is mind-boggling and it is a little disappointing that videos that do seem to spotlight small businesses and specifically call them out have a tendency to draw or attract fewer buyers. And I think that there is this horrible misconception that if I really want to start somewhere, if I really want to make a good profit, that I've got to go in and buy as low as I possibly can. And the way that I'm going to buy as low as I possibly can is go to a thrift store. Now, I did find these 3 little pumpkin little wax candles. They were never burnt. They're in really good condition. There is some fading to the orange. They were only $3, making them $1 each. So I couldn't pass up those cute little faces. So I did decide to go ahead and get the pumpkins. Even though we're past Halloween, they're still darling and I couldn't. Look at that one. He's like, "No, don't leave me here." And I said, "Okay, I won't leave you here. I'll get you. I'll get you little pumpkins." Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. I have issues for sure. But again, I think one thing that is disappointing as a content creator is that, and I'm going to tie these 2 points together, is that somehow to generate the most profit you have to go into a thrift store to be able to do that versus going into an antique mall. Now, going into an antique mall is twofold, which is where I'm going to tie these 2 points in together, is because you are supporting another community member. And if you are going to a vendor mall or an antique mall or a co-op, meaning it is individual sellers within one business under one roof, you are not only supporting that actual business, the antique mall, but you are supporting those individual vendors. And those individual vendors are the same people that have a true and genuine passion for these vintage and antique items. These beer things freaked me out. I thought they were wax. Turns out, no, it wasn't. It was a liquid. That's just gross. It's cringy to me. I don't even. But you are enabling, at a minimum, if you go in there and make a purchase, 2 businesses. 1, the antique mall itself. 2, the vendor that you are buying from. And I know people are going to say, "Well, Michael, you're going to pay more." Well, you could, but yet I'm going to say to you, well, yeah, but a lot of Goodwills and a lot of thrift stores now, the good stuff, they're charging a premium on because they put them up in a case or they're actually collecting them before they even hit the floor and putting them up on a website to have you pay a premium. It's the same thing at the end of the day. So am I going to support the multi-billion-dollar industry that is quite literally taking stuff off the shelves so that they can charge a premium on? Or am I going to support another community member who is, yes, they are buying low and selling for a profit, but they're putting in the time, the effort, and the work with limited to no resources and not billions of dollars to back them up. So that's just kind of where I'm at with that. And again, I think that that's the biggest point that I want to impress upon you guys is do not forget, profit can be made at an antique mall. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to say this 100% honesty to you, every single large profit that I have made has come from an antique mall and not from Goodwill. Have I done well on certain Goodwill items? Yeah, I absolutely have. I'm not going to try to make it, I never make a profit. Yes, I do. But the biggest profits to be had are from an antique mall. Yes, they are. Well, guys, we are close to the end of the video here. Actually, this is everything that I got today at Goodwill. Again, I will say that I'm never not going to shop at Goodwill, but I am going to make sure that I focus more and more and more on supporting fellow community members, small businesses. Again, I'm not holding it against anybody that wants to continue to shop in Goodwill and film there, but that's what we're going to do here at the Cult of Vintage. Until next time, guys.